Welcome to the Luna Holistic Podcast. I'm your host, Geneva Robbins, and every month on this podcast, we'll talk about Reiki, as well as answering your questions on all things spiritual. We are gratefully located in Calgary in Treaty 7 territory. Thank you all and welcome to the show. Hello and welcome to the Luna Holistic Podcast. My name's Geneva Robbins and I'm your host for today. Thanks for joining us. I am so grateful you're here. Our topic today, how do you trust yourself? How do you trust yourself? This is a really, really big one for many, many people. It's always amazing to me because some of the wisest people I've met, some of the most intuitive, psychic, empathic people, oh boy, do they doubt themselves. I am one of those people. And I, in my line of work at Luna Holistic, I see so many people who have a very deeply intuitive knowing, and yet you still have those doubts that come up and questioning yourself and not trusting your instincts. And that happens for lots of different reasons, but that's our topic for today. We'll start, as we always do, with a bit of a meditation, because why wouldn't you meditate? That's actually the very first step for me. If I am ever uncertain, meditation is it. So let's start with a few gentle breaths, with just taking this moment, this second, to gently center yourself in all of the ways that you can center yourself. It's really about coming back home to your center. So, how do you do that? Close your eyes as long as you're not driving or moving your body around. Just gently close your eyes. Otherwise, just hold a soft gaze and just bring your energy inward to your core, to your heart, to your belly. Just noticing your center, and breathe gently as you hold your focus on that internal space within your body. And then sending an energy out and down, a connection with the earth, coming back to your location physically in the world. Noticing the energy below you, but also stretching out in the land all around you. See if you can feel the land and the energy of the space you're in at a great distance from you and every point in between. See if you can notice the energy of the water that surrounds you, maybe in rivers or creeks or groundwater, in the clouds, in your body. Just notice that frequency of water and know how it flows and takes shape and reforms and disperses and collects. And just send a wave of gratitude into the waters of the world, in the waters of your body, in your connection to this place, this breath, this heartbeat. Noticing the flow of air through your nose, and take a big sigh of relief, being so grateful for this breath. However it happens to arrive, Whether it's a full breath or a shaky one, you are breathing, so all is well. Take another big sigh of relief and extend your body, taking up more space, noticing the energy of your aura, your personal space bubble. And take a big sigh of relief, claiming that space around you. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Ah, wonderful. Thank you so much. I always love taking those little moments, even if they're just little, tiny little breaths where you come back to yourself, coming back to your center. I feel like that's really the first, one of many first steps to rebuild this trust in yourself. There's a lot of parts to this concept of trusting yourself. And oh man, where do we even begin? Let's start with who yourself is. It seems like a simple question, but it's actually really not. It's more complicated than we can even imagine. I really love this idea that comes from internal family systems, which is that we have all of these different aspects within ourselves. We have a child self and a bully and, a guardian and a sort of protector energy. Every age that we've ever been, that's another version of yourself. If you understand past lives, you have all of those past selves. So one soul, many spirits. So you have many different versions of yourself that stretch through time and that we're in this life to gain new experiences. So you have all of those selves. And then we also have sort of this inner critic or this inner dialogue that can sort of chirp away. We have the body, which is another self, the knowing within the body. And then we have sort of our relational selves. So the people that we become, or even some people feel it as masks we wear in certain social situations in order to just get by, which is another part of ourselves, but maybe not our true selves, where we're acting in a role rather than living from sort of an internal and core self. So, depending on which self you ask a question of, you're going to get a very different answer. So, it's very important to come back to whose opinion matters to you. So, the people pleaser is going to always give you an answer that is going to please other people and put you last, likely, and to smooth things over and to minimize harm. And that might be a very fair opinion to gather. It's not that we necessarily want to dismiss that people pleaser, because it makes our life easy in social situations. And in some situations, maybe saves our life. So let's not be mean to that part. But also, if we're striving for an authentic life and we're in a safe space and we have agency, so we can move around, we have a little bit of money, we are adults, we can get for ourselves from place to place, we can say no and make big choices about the trajectory of our lives. The need to people please becomes less and less when we are in those situations. So what we find is that that pleaser part of us that gets active in situations where we don't have control, and we can have all the opinions we want, but you still got to go to that same school because you're only 10. There is maybe no other school in your town, so you just got to like it or lump it. That pleaser energy, or where that formed, was useful then, but less useful now. Now it's just stuck on autopilot rather than being something true or authentic to our genuine selves. So definitely like we can take in all of that information, all of the internal different parts of us that have a voice or an opinion about what's true for us and what to do next. And, including our emotions, or what we want or what we crave, even our, addictive and numbing self. It's okay to listen to that part, but maybe we don't want to take action from that part, but we need to acknowledge its needs. And like a kind, wise parent, we don't always give the screaming baby ice cream. Sometimes we take it to a cold, cool car and just let it calm and have a nap, right? So maybe we acknowledge that craving and then look deeper into ourselves to find a true and genuine answer. So definitely, um, we know that our numbing and addictive self is not generally trustworthy when it comes to issues of our safety and our well-being and taking care of all of the bits of our lives that need us to show up as responsible adults. That part of us can be carefully monitored and with boundaries can be given more positive outlets. So going for a run instead of, maybe drinking a beer or something like that, so we can give the need what the true need is, care, but we're not necessarily going to be listening or trusting that part of us because that part of us can be sneaky and doesn't always lead us to the most nourishing, wise behavior. So definitely, I feel like we can acknowledge the information and energy from all of these diverse parts of ourselves. But the one that we want to really tune into, the deep trust within, is that core self. So our wise self, our some people call it a higher self. That's tricky because sometimes we place that higher self outside or above us, that it's a person that we are going to become someday rather than an energy that already lives within us. I really feel like that higher self or that core self it's central to us and that it's not that far away and every single person has it already. You have to. It's part of the essence that that animates you, that makes you alive and conscious. It's the core of your consciousness. And you can think of it as that eternal, ancient, wise part of you that existed before you were born and will continue to exist once you are gone. Once your body has died, that part of you is going to remain. And that part of you is ancient. It's not fussed with the comings and goings of your life, but is also very attentive to all of it. It's that wise inner parent. It's kind by its nature. It's loving. It's connected to the kindness and love of the universe and all of the wisdom that exists within everything, everywhere. It's intuitive, highly, highly intuitive, but also practical. It understands that you have this big spiritual soul and all of these things that you incarnated to do and experience, and also that you're living within these fairly fragile human bodies that need tending. And it can incorporate all of that information. So it understands your logical mind, it understands time, it understands the first, next, then order of things, it understands your progress on your spiritual path. It understands what you need to do today, tomorrow, and in the next 5 years. It is immediate, but also has this longevity to it. So that's the part of us that knows rather than thinks. To get to that part is not as hard as we think it might be. What it requires is a shift in our mindset. So it's like, I was going to say shifting gears, but it's more like stepping from a car to a spot in nature, getting a shift in the energy that's around you and within you. And being in nature is a good way of getting there. Putting yourself into a spatial sort of context. So doing art, even drawing and doodling, sculpting things, working with your hands, going into sort of this unfocused or lantern mode of consciousness. So instead of being focused like a laser beam, you go into more of like a spacious being where you're aware of yourself in 3D space all around you, not just what your eyes are pointed at or what your brain is focused on, but the energy that exists in a soup all around you. And yeah, we can get that to that space, riding a bike in nature. We could get it meditating, doing Reiki, grounding. All of these things will help us sort of access that core wise energy within. When you're in that core energy, answers pop in. Whereas before they are a struggle because your conscious mind or one of those other selves is a guardian or gatekeeper, keeping you sort of fixed and focused, like in a very narrow way on one or two topics and sort of not taking in the fullness of your experience. So we actually become unaware of all of the information that is available to us because of that guardian or that ego keeping you sort of hyper fixated on just one or two topics, often things that feel unsolvable or feel like big issues or big problems, or keeps you stuck in that anxiety loop over and over and over again. How do you pop out of that state? So one of the things to do, the very first thing to do, is to stop external inputs. So stop looking outside of yourself is the first thing. When I was researching, I was trying to figure out what to do for this podcast topic. And I was just stuck and stuck and stuck and stuck. I was watching YouTube videos. I was pondering. I was thinking and thinking and thinking. And then I just took a moment and I started writing and journaling. And I asked my team, which is really asking the wise part within me, what do I need to do? And immediately my team said, you know what to do. Trust yourself. And I was like, oh, there it is. I really just needed to take my own advice and listen to what was within me all along. The answer was just right there, hovering. But because I was externally focused, thinking that I could get inspiration from the outside that would spark something, and sometimes that happens. You have experiences and it sparks something inside. But sometimes you're just sort of already packing in information into a container, a vessel that's already full. So maybe you already have all of the information, and externally seeking is just clouding it over or muddying it up. And it's really this internal inquiry is much more useful. It's much more direct, and it's much more kind and wise and interesting. So the first thing is to turn off external inputs and as much as possible seeking solitude and silence. So turning off music, turning off devices, stepping away from screens as much as possible. Just try to understand the amount of sensory inputs that are happening right now, and getting yourself to a quiet, externally quiet space at first. The reason we'll sort of avoid that is because when you make things quiet externally, all of a sudden, all of the internal stuff that maybe you were suppressing with the external noise, the internal stuff gets loud. And so the thoughts, the worries, the repetitive nature of the mind, even physical pain in the body, sometimes that all gets really, really loud. It feels like there's this crescendo of emotions and sensations and thoughts and a swirl of all of those things that can be fairly overwhelming at first, particularly if we have a habit of focusing on the loudest one and excluding all of the others. But what you can do is, instead of focusing on just the one or two habitual thoughts or what's just right up in front of you, whatever is loudest, it's sort of like when you go into a busy room with maybe 100 or so people in it, or sort of a big public space. You might hear people that are close to you, but they may not have interesting or relevant information. They're just the loudest one in the room. And the loudest one in the room doesn't always have the best information. And there's a general hum. So if you can, instead of focusing on one or two of those internal voices or sensations, see if you can expand your awareness. It's sort of like the internal version of being aware of your peripheral vision. And this is something you can do even just with your vision. So you can focus with your eyes, and then you can take in more information. What is happening to the sides of you, to the back of you? If you, without looking, what do you know is behind your body? What can you sense about the 3D space that is in your environment without actively looking at it, just knowing what's around your body, what's within your body? Just noticing the body is going to bring a calmness into that busy noise. And just like if you were in a room with a lot of different people, so you can listen to the overall hum of the conversations. Just like with your hearing, you can shift your vision. You can pick up on other sounds by just becoming aware of other sounds and sensations that are happening at the same time. So instead of focusing on the loudest one in your head, the loudest voice, feel around and sense around for other parts of you that might also be active and have something to say. It might be noticing the sensations in the body. It might be noticing emotions that are bubbling up that need to be felt and expressed and just made room for. It could be something deeper and wiser and energy. And as you take more and more of that information in, seeing if you can widen your peripherals, widening the amounts of sensations to take in not just one or two streams of information, but see if you can take in all of it. So with sounds, what do you notice about the high pitches, the low pitches, the pauses, the silences? With vision, what do you take in terms of different colors, different textures? Can you feel things with your body? So what about the drape of fabric on your skin? Can you feel your hair? What about the texture of your teeth, the feeling of your shoulders? Do you have your back straight? Can you shift your body to create a little more ease? So then, after sort of this initial noticing, what I try to do is get physically comfortable, to get as comfortable and find as much ease and even bliss as I can with just really subtle movements. So it's like, is there any tension I'm holding in my body that I could release with just a tiny shift in my weight, a tiny lift of my shoulders, exhale, and just sort of notice how little tiny subtle movements start bringing ease into the physical. And then you can notice how the wave of your breath starts shifting and moving the energy, that there's a flow and a current within your energy in your body, that flow of wisdom. So then once you do that, things start to get quieter and quieter. The noisy voices sort of fade into the background. And what comes into the foreground is this stillness, this subtle energy of your eternal self can then step forward and make itself known. And just with that gentle questioning of like bringing in that energy, what happens is that frequency of your kind, wise, eternal soul self starts to speak. And at first, it speaks in energy. And what it does is it makes you feel good. It makes you feel loved, makes you feel peaceful, makes you feel a deep reverence and kindness, a deep respect for yourself, for your courage to be here in this body that might have aches and pains and difficulties, to have emotions, to feel afraid, to feel fragile and vulnerable, to not know what's going to happen next. It understands all of that. And it has this calm presence. And so when you get present, you welcome in your presence, your being. So you have to sit in this being space and look for it and trust and know that it is there and it is quiet. So you have to get quiet to listen to its wisdom. And instead of trying to turn off the voices, just let them chatter and keep returning your attention to the body, the space, the stillness inside you. And really, when you do that, it opens up a calm energy that you might feel in your heart, you might feel in your belly, you might feel it as like a column or pillar of light within you. Then what I like to do is expand that field, expand that energy of peace and well-being and kindness and eternal unconditional love that is flowing from your wise self to all of the parts of you that we were talking about, all of the parts that might be in pain or confusion. It can hold all of them. So then you just widen that energy and allow it to flow through your whole body, allow it to connect and go down your legs, connecting into the earth and the wisdom within the earth, connecting to the wisdom within the whole universe, bathing your whole body, magnifying the energy in all of your chakras, and bringing this luminous light around and through your aura. In that space, you can then ask questions. So, whatever topic you are not sure about, that you want to trust more about, where you need to know what to do next, you can just in this space ask that self, okay, now that I am here and I'm all here, all of me is here and present, and I'm as anchored in my physical body. My soul is as anchored in my physical body as I can possibly get. Like I'm sitting within myself in this central space. What is the next thing that needs to be known? What is the next thing I need to do? What will bring ease and joy? How can I bring this ease, joy, and comfort to others? Just bringing that energy in and then get still and quiet and see what comes up. The next most obvious step is usually the one that is pulling you forward. And it might be something subtle like go pick up your paints or go outside and breathe in some fresh air. Or it might be call someone you love, or it might be spend a little bit of time resting. It might be, this topic is really interesting. I'm going to learn more about this. I'm curious about this thing, or I really want to make this. Some image might pop up into your mind. You might get a word, you might get a direction. There is a knowing, it's very calm. And even if all that happens is that you only feel better, that's good. That's enough. That's maybe all that's required is just you gave yourself a moment to feel better. And that's what your soul wanted. So, this is the part that you can trust. Then, once you get a direction, even if it's just the tiniest little impulse, like, I'm a little bit hungry. Okay, cool. What's the best thing for body, mind, and soul for me to eat? And it might be an apple or some other thing that pops into your head. Yes, that's the thing that I want next. You listen to that. And then what happens as you start coming back into all of you, the other personalities, the other parts of you are going to start chirping and say, oh, you can't do this thing because of X, Y, and Z. And so then you can have a discussion. You can have your wise self talk to these other parts of you and provide them comfort and reassurance, acknowledging kindly their needs and wants, and creating solutions. So it's a little bit easier, I find, to write it out as a dialogue. So I just write it out longhand in my journal. And I have these different parts of me that talk to different parts of me. And really, in that, I am allowing the parts that are afraid to follow my soul self, follow the wisdom inside, because they're afraid of disappointing other people, of letting other people down, or not doing the proper thing. And that energy needs to be cared for and nurtured, and its concerns need to be accepted and validated, but you don't necessarily want to act upon them. You do want to put it in this greater context and awareness and have that wise self say, yes, I understand why, doing your own thing rather than doing what other people might want of you is a little bit scary, but maybe there's another way we can think about this. Maybe we can change the timing of things. So you do a little bit with other people, then you do a little bit for yourself, or you do a little bit for yourself, and then you do things for other people, or you shorten the timing so that it's like, oh, we don't need to do a lot of this. We only need about 5 minutes. 5 minutes to connect, 5 minutes to do something creative. It doesn't have to take all day. Getting out of that sort of zero sum game where the linear analytical self is like, I'm either completely following my soul or I'm not, right? So there can be a much gentler path where you have many diverse needs and many parts of you that need to be attended to. You need to take care of your body as much as you need to take care of your mind. You need to tend to your relationships as much as you tend to your own internal relationship with yourself. These aren't mutually exclusive things. We need all of those things to be working and working well to feel good. And everybody has their own mix and their own needs, depending on the day it is and what time of day it is and the season. So your needs during summertime could be very different than your needs during winter. The needs when you are busy at work are going to be a lot different than when you have more time off. If you have a lot of family commitments, that's going to be different than when you don't. And all of it can be embraced and put into this bigger context. So I find that when I take this process and I take a moment to turn inside, even what if the answers aren't out there? What if I already have the answer? And then ask that internal soul self, oh, if I knew what the answer or solution or what I need to do next is, what would that be? If I knew the answer to this question, what would that be? If I knew what was best for me, what is it? And it's interesting how, when you frame it that way, there is an answer. And you do know. You absolutely know deep inside what is right for you. And when you're in a safe place and you can start making these decisions for yourself and balancing your needs with other people's needs, not placing one above the other, but giving yourself that moment to sort of tune in and begin to trust that deeper, wiser part of you, it starts leading you out of problems and into solutions. It starts, even if it's really difficult, even if you are overwhelmed, it starts connecting you with a path and an energy. Even if you're going through a lot of life right now and you have to process a lot of it and move through maybe some grief or anger or frustration, if you feel stuck in any way, it helps you gear down into first gear and you just take it moment by moment, minute by minute. When we're in a state of change, the mind doesn't know what to do because we've never been in this situation before. And so many things in our world are changing. Just look outside, everything is changing. And internally, we are also in this great state of change. So, how do you navigate all of that change? You have to come back to the wisdom that knows rather than the energy that thinks and guesses. And it's at least as good, I find, if not better, than what the intellect alone or the fear part of us or the inner critic can cook up. So the fear, the intellect, worry, the critic is all about damage control or control. But when you're in a space where you maybe don't have a lot of control directly, even indirectly, how do you navigate those situations? And it comes back to flowing with your being and following one step after another. And when I do that, I find it works so much better with so much more ease. I step out of confusion and into action. I stop spending so much time thinking about what the right thing is, and I just start doing a thing. And the more things I do, the more things get accomplished. And it becomes much lighter and much more playful, even if things are difficult, as for me, they have been. I've had many family members pass away, and I'm still dealing and processing with a lot of that. There's just been a lot of life happening for me this year, and that continues. It's still something I need to cope with. It's still energies I need to process and heal from. And that's okay because it's all coming from a kind and wise space. And there's no way around it, right? Things have changed. And so, how do you get through it? You come back to yourself, you listen to your heart, to your wisdom inside, and then you take tiny step after tiny step that brings you comfort, that is respectful of your feelings, that is kindly acknowledging your fears without necessarily taking action from that reactive space, but at the same time making plans and preparing and doing whatever you can to make life a little bit better and easier for yourself and others. So that's what I do to try to trust myself. It's in my dialogues with my divine team. That's the primary thing that they say. Trust yourself, trust yourself, trust yourself. So I encourage you to trust yourself. You are much wiser and smarter than you even know. So start listening to yourself, start taking your own great, brilliant advice. You know what you are doing. I believe in you. And oh man, when you believe in you, there is nothing that can stop you. So have a wonderful time. And until next time, bye-bye. Thank you for joining us on the Luna Holistic Podcast. We're so grateful that you are here. If you've got a question, we'd love to hear from you. Go to lunaholistic.com/podcast and we'll answer you in an upcoming episode. Be sure to subscribe to our show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And also please rate, because you never know where your little 5 stars will go to shine light into somebody's heart today. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.